and make. Welcome back, module number 2. It's loaded. Brian M. Bean, Executive National Director with Making Wealth Real Financial, and it's time to load you up with 2 equations and one of the most dynamic frameworks in the history of the industry. That's right. See, understand, if you build your group using equations and math and not emotions, it removes all the excuses that people tend to use as to why they're not being successful. If you create a system where everyone can just plug and play, it allows you to see where the problems are so you can do what we call solve for X easily. Well, now that it's time to build the business, or at least get an introduction into the fundamental steps necessary to duplicate and hit national director, we must first tackle the phases necessary to hit executive, senior, area, district, and regional. Here's the reality. When you have equations as your base or foundation, you can then see where your group may be struggling or where they may be succeeding. You can see where you need to pull away energy and see where you need to put more energy in. The reason we've always used formulas in the history of society or in the history of business is because it removes the emotions and gives you a direct line or a straight path to your goal. One of the fastest ways to hit area director is called the triple double. Now, why area director? Well, area director is what unlocks the key to your monthly bonuses. Area director unlocks the key to the $45 override, which is the largest leap in the entire compensation plan from one goal to the next. Area director is the pivotal position where you've shown true signs of leadership. Well, one formula that reigns true is that CC plus WW plus PP minus E equals AD. Now, Brian, what is that? We call that a triple double. You need to do 3 things at least 2 times before you even start gauging your success in the business. See, it'll take you a while to see whether or not you're better at conference calls or webinars. It may take you a while to see whether the profit parties or the conference calls suit your personality best. Before you start judging any area of the business, just do 3 things 2 times and have your organization duplicate that before you decide to tweak and switch and change and destroy and burn and rebuild and go through all these emotions. The CC stands for 2 cash flow calls. When you join the business, conduct 2 cash flow calls where someone other than you is getting your people excited about the business, is explaining the nature of income shifting, is going over the cash flow expansion techniques. 2 conference calls where you invite everybody you know to listen in to an expert. Now, parlay that into 2 webinars. See, audio is one thing, video is something totally different. Now that you have 2 webinars, people can see the slides. They can see a 4, 3, 2, 1 financial countdown. They can see the faces on Zoom of some of the individuals they'll get to do business with. It brings a more intimate setting than a conference call. And 2 profit parties, oh my goodness, nothing like it. Once you have people of like minds in one room coming together, once you have people of like minds talking about wealth and abundance, it brings a sharp contrast to what people are used to, which is scarcity, a mentality of not enough, a mentality of struggling. Once you bring people in a room and show in a quick 30 to 45-minute overview that a worksheet can change their life, those 2 profit parties can catapult you well beyond your wildest dreams. But you have to subtract one thing, guys, and that's excuses. Remember, excuses are useless. They are tools of incompetence people use to build bridges. Those who dwell in them seldom amount to anything. Excuses are useless. You can't excuse your way to the top. So you can't have 2 conference calls, 2 wealth webinars, and 2 profit parties if you're making a bunch of excuses. There's no such thing as convenience and success. The ducks are never going to line up at the same time. Your prospects are never going to be ready to see it when you need them to. Nobody you know that's successful has ever stumbled across anything by sitting down. You got to get up, you got to take action, and you got to start moving in the direction of your goals, and the universe will meet you halfway. But the universe does not reward excuses, which is why we remove them from the equation day one. That's the only way to hit area director. Now, the methodology and technique necessary to fulfill those needs will happen in this module. But first, we wanted to give you that equation so you can come in with the right mindset. Now, another popular equation or formula, E plus E plus E minus E equals E. Brian, what do you mean? That's a lot of E's. I understand that, but pay close attention because this formula will give you the role that everyone plays in order to have a successful organization. First, understand your number one role is exposure. Now, don't get confused by social media or memes or any other way to get people to see the business. What they're doing is they're trying to expose prospects and open their minds up to the opportunity that we provide. People often confuse the different ways of exposure and get caught up in believing that one way is horrible and one way is better and one way is duplicatable and one way is not. Here's really what you want to ask yourself, regardless of the method of exposure. Is it effective or is it ineffective? Because the minute you see which forms of exposure are effective, those are the ones you need to hone in on. The minute you see the forms that are ineffective, those are the ones you need to delete. But as long as everything is under the realm of exposure and it's duplicating, your organization is going to win. Some modalities of exposure are way better than others. And this module will give you the fundamental principles to expose the business properly, but you have to decide what methods you learn that work best for you. Now, as long as you are exposing, your organization should have different ways to educate. See, exposure plus education is the key. We have to educate people on the rule of 72. We have to educate people on how to stop leaving money on the table. We have to educate people that the number one asset they can own is a home-based business. See, in a future module, you'll see the different wealth worksheets that were developed to help you educate the masses. Now, Making Wealth Real Financial will do the third E, which is execute. Aren't you excited? You don't have to do all the execution. They do the heavy lifting for you. And that's what makes Making Wealth Real so powerful. You don't have to become a CPA. You don't have to become an overnight tax professional. You don't have to become a credit specialist. All you have to do is expose, and your team has to educate, and Making Wealth Real does the execution. Now, here's what you have to remove: the explanations. See, remember, the more you say, the less we pay. If you talk too much and explain everything yourself and don't introduce prospects via a system, you will never get the outcome, which is enrollments. I know a lot of you guys feel like you have to explain everything. Brian, if they don't hear it from me, then they won't believe me. I know what my people want to see. Well, Brian, I don't like the fact that you have to pass your people to something else. Shouldn't I know all the information? Well, yeah, this may be true. But do you want to get burnt out at the same time? Do you want your prospects to think they have to be smart? Do you want to enjoy leverage and enjoy your life? So you can create a system where you know everything and you do the explaining and you do the execution and you do the enrollment and you do the education and you do the exposing. That may work, but it won't work for very long. You want to create a system as if it's an assembly line. If you expose, your organization educates, and Making Wealth Real executes, and no one's doing a ton of explaining, the system will evolve and that will quadruple your enrollments. See, everything you do in this industry has to be systematic. And what can't be done 1,000 times should never be done once. The reason I hit national director in record time is because I understood from the outset the importance of creating formulas that people can plug into. So when momentum increases, we know what to ramp up. And if momentum ever dies, we know which formula to tweak. I hope that serves you well. And now that you know that CC plus WW plus PP minus excuses equals AD, it's time to show you how to expose people properly, get them educated systematically, let Making Wealth Real execute, and remove all the explaining so that you can ramp up your number of enrollments.